Hello there, Lunar Squadron, and welcome back to the channel. And we have some exciting news, as thanks to the Illuminerdi, we finally have some news, albeit brief, but some news about the much anticipated Star Wars The Acolyte. This show is shrouded in a bunch of mystery, but it is definitely a show that both Andreas and I are looking forward to, as it will be coming to Disney Plus in the next few years. Now, the news we received today was pretty exciting, wasn't a lot there, but it did raise a few questions for us about whether a familiar face or two might be returning to the Star Wars universe. But before we jump into all of this news and speculation, I think we have a brief message from our official sponsor, Boss, don't we?
Yes, we do. As you guys know, it is a big week for Star Wars, and it's also a very big week for our sponsor, Bosk.
You are my prey.
Thank you, Bosk. I'm so proud of you. Like, you're back. Now let's get into the video. As you guys know, this is a super big week for Star Wars. We've got a ton of stuff that is expected to come out at this whole D+ event. And earlier this week, we already got a Book of Boba Fett trailer. And now today, the very next day, we're already getting some whisperings about this Star Wars The Acolyte show. Just like Nick mentioned earlier, there was an Illuminerdi article which did break a few key details about the Acolyte. Nothing too revealing, so you're not going to have to worry about spoilers, obviously, in this video. However, we do have some of the beginnings of what looks to be a really interesting show that's really going to touch on some areas in Star Wars that a lot of us have really been dying to see. So I just want to get the news out of the way first, and then we can kind of get into this discussion about what we expect for this show, kind of working off of that news. So to start things off, we kind of got a working code name for this show. It's going to be called Paradox. As you guys know, a lot of Star Wars shows, when they are shooting, have this sort of code name. For Return of the Jedi, it was Blue Harvest. This one is going to be Paradox. I don't know if that means anything to anyone, but it is set to have one female protagonist, and word on the block is that the protagonist's name is Aura. I know that's going to give a lot of you Major Aura Singh vibes, but that's what it is for now. Who knows? It could be a placeholder name, kind of like how Kira was Rey's placeholder name prior and during filming of the sequel trilogy. So it remains to be seen whether or not Aura will be confirmed. Obviously, everything we're talking about here is very much kind of that smoke type stuff, not really solidified into legitimate confirmed news yet. Right, Nick?
Yes, Andreas, you're absolutely correct. However, one thing that we do know that is solidified is the time frame that this show will be taking place in, and that is the High Republic era. Now, the High Republic era is an era that we have not yet seen on the screen when it comes to Star Wars. However, it is something that we have seen in novels and other various literature forms, so it will be pretty cool to see this on screen. It is also very interesting because the Acolyte is said to be taking place in the waning days of the High Republic, which is roughly about 82 BBY is when we are officially recognizing the High Republic era as coming to an end. About 50 years before the events in the Phantom Menace, which take place in 32 BBY. So when we start looking at this time frame, Andreas, we have some questions about whether some familiar faces will be making an appearance in this show. Now, of course, we all know who we're talking about. I think this is something that all of us, since this show was announced at the Investor Day last year, we are wondering, will Darth Plagueis finally make his physical appearance on the screen in a Star Wars show? Now, what are we thinking, Andreas? Is this something that... Do we think this is going to happen?
I mean, I think at this point, everything, all of the gravity surrounding this show is starting to pull around this one dude. Darth Plagueis, I don't want to say, like, he's going to be. I'm going to say he has to be in this show. Because if you look at the timeline, there's no possible way that they can skip through this time period focusing on the Sith and the dark side and the rise of the dark without involving Darth Plagueis' origin story, kind of leading up into where he will ultimately be taking Darth Sidious as an apprentice. I think, just like you said, Nick, this show is going to kind of be in the waning years of the High Republic era, which means that this is going to be roughly 50 to 60 years prior to Episode 1. As you guys know, Episode 1 and the death of Darth Plagueis is on 32 BBY. What this means is that we're kind of going to be hovering around that period right before Palpatine is born, which, bet your bottom dollar, will be involving Darth Plagueis. It has to, right?
I agree with what you said completely, where I know this show is supposed to be focused on our female protagonist, the Acolyte, right? However, how are you going to tell a story about the Sith and focus on the Sith for the first time and in a way like never before in Star Wars without having Darth Plagueis, who is, at his height at this point? Like, this is when he is supposed to be, like, at the height of his reign as a Sith Lord. So, I agree with you. I think there is no conceivable way that you can put this much focus and zero in on the Sith in this timeline and not focus on Darth Plagueis. And I think another thing that makes me comfortable with saying that Darth Plagueis is going to be in this show is the fact that they decided to zero in on this timeline when Darth Plagueis is around, right? There is so much Sith history that they could have focused on. You could go back 1,000 years before the Clone Wars and deal with Darth Bane and the Sith Jedi Wars. Like, there is thousands of years of history, hundreds of years of history when it comes to the Sith, but they decided to zero in on this time frame when one of the most popular Sith Lords in Star Wars fandom is at his height, doing his thing, you know? It just seems it's too coincidental that they would choose to focus on this time frame and not another one and not feature Darth Plagueis. And also, don't we all want to see Darth Plagueis? Isn't this something we've all wanted to see since the tragedy of Darth Plagueis in Episode 3? And they've kind of laid the seeds for this because in the novelization for Episode 9, he is mentioned when it comes to the Force Dyad, and Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau have both mentioned that their Mandalorian show was going to tie into the sequel trilogy. So, if Star Wars is interested in tying all of this together, tying in all of these shows into their sequel trilogy and kind of tying the whole Skywalker saga together in different ways with their various shows, then it would make sense to then mention and show Darth Plagueis if he is so important to your Force Dyad. It's too coincidental to not happen, you know? He's got to be in the show. I think it would be extremely disappointing if he's not in the show, and I just wouldn't understand why we're even focusing on this time frame if you're not going to show him when you could have focused on basically hundreds of other years. Makes no sense. Has to be in it.
Yeah, I think you're right, Nick, because just like you said, the Skywalker saga has left some loose threads when it comes to Plagueis. Just like you mentioned, The Mandalorian has some open threads regarding Darth Plagueis and cloning. It only makes sense to go to the heart of this, where it all began. The Sith Lord that really started this whole, everlasting life chase. And get to the heart of everything, where we begin, where Sidious's story begins. Because this all permeates through the rest of Star Wars, and it's a great place to flesh out and then move on from. We do have, something that is going to be frustrated by this show. This show is going to try to get into the nitty-gritty of the, upswing of the dark side. But with the rule of 2, how many people are we going to have? How many Sith Lords are we actually going to be explore here? Is this maybe a situation where we will have a female lead who is a master, and then the Acolyte ends up being Darth Plagueis as the apprentice? Is that something that we could maybe see? Or are we totally expecting this main character to be the Acolyte herself? And then how would Plagueis sort of be involved in that? I'm not sure how they're going to approach this thing. I'm very interested to see. Yeah, that totally would be.
I haven't even thought about that. that this whole time we've just assumed that the Acolyte was going to be the main character who is going to be this protagonist, this female protagonist. But what if the name is actually about Darth Plagueis, and the main character is like how Qui-Gon was one of the main characters when he was the Master in Episode 1. That's a very interesting point. I haven't even thought about that. That makes me like, when you said that, I'm over here like, wow. All right, now I got more questions, more things to talk about, but that's for another time. Now I have to sit here and think about this. Like I have to digest this, because that's a good point. Like, what if they do that? What if they're trying to pull a fast one on us, because it wouldn't be the first time they've done that?
Yeah, that would definitely be a new angle to approach this show from, something that would kind of call for a second season, which we would all want to see. I mean, seeing Plageuis from the time that he's an apprentice all the way through to the transfer of power to Sidious. Also would love to see kind of the rise and fall of Sidious to the dark side as well, kind of not in this inaugural season, but maybe going forward. Let us know what you guys think is going to happen in the Acolyte in the comments down below. Also, if you guys have any bold predictions for this week, it is a massive week for Star Wars, so now is the time more than ever to put those bold predictions down in the comments down below. See how many of them you guys get right. Personally, I think it would be cool if they kind of, flipped the script here and Plagueis was, the main Acolyte in the show. Wouldn't that be cool, Nick?
Yeah, that would definitely be a creative way to hide this, for sure, because I think we're all expecting the Acolyte to be the female protagonist, but who knows? Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for us. Let us know down below in the comments what you think. Will Darth Plagueis make an appearance in the show? Will we see familiar locations such as Moraband or Korriban, depending on what you want to call it? Will Dromund Kaas make an appearance for those of you who have played the Old Republic? There are lots of questions. This series is a few years out, so we have a little bit to go, but like Andreas said, we have some big news coming on the 12th Disney Plus Day. Hopefully we'll get our first look at the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, or perhaps a more extended look at Andor, which both shows are set to release in early 2022. So, very exciting times. Like we said at the beginning, we got a Boba Fett trailer on Monday. Like, it's a great time to be a Star Wars fan again, so if you're excited, let us know down below in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, do us a favor, leave a like. And also, if you're new to the channel, we are almost to 2,000 subscribers. We would love to have you join us. I know that Bosk would definitely love to have you join us. So do Bosk a favor, hit that little subscribe button and the bell notification right on next to it. It will notify you every single time that Andreas, Bosk, and myself upload. Thank you all so much for watching this, and we will see you all next time.